Hello. It's been a while. Why has it been a while? Well, there's been a lot of internal stuff going on. And part of it is I am working on a book. And the book is about my journey, my life. And I have been told many times by different seers, by astrologers, that I need to write a book. And every time I just go, oh yeah, right. I'm not going to write a book. But now I'm doing it. So that's kind of big, and it's been taking up my spare time. Now, I am also being guided by my ancestors to talk about my journey online as well, because I'm working through these phases of my life and recollecting all the things that happened and putting it into a context, and that I should share some of this online. I have been focused on astrology and talking about the cosmic consciousness, which is the class I'm teaching, which tells us about the sun and the moon and the path through the different signs. I've had kind of a interesting, fun, revealing relationship with astrology, and now I feel like I was using it to help me trust in the cycles and the ups and downs we go through in our lives. And it has a lot of information there, but also I've learned about metaphysics and the physics of the body, the physics of our reality. And so there's like a conflict that happens between our thoughts, our mind, understanding our mind, and then astrology and predictions and the way energies are being described by different astrologers according to their frame of reference. Everything is about your frame of reference. So I have moved through my dependence on astrology and come to a really interesting place where I almost like question everything, but in a good way. Not like I am not a skeptic. I feel like there is I have a lot of questions, and I've always had a lot of questions. So getting into the nature of reality. And I can remember as a child, my childhood was full of, different experiences. We lived in a lot of places. My father was kind of a restless soul. He was in college when I was 2 years old, still getting his PhD. So we moved around. We moved for the college, we moved for the job, we moved for other jobs. So there was a lot of experiences in there and a lot of exposure. We don't know, in the 70s, there wasn't much information unless you were a curandera or already, come from a lineage that had kept in touch with the understanding of how you protect your children, that you have to protect them from energies, because there's a lot of trickster energy out here. And it's in all the fairy tales. It tells you, and I think about, from my culture, from Irish culture, the changelings, having your baby stolen and replaced with another baby. That is this reference to the possession of spirits, because children are very open. So, I was definitely influenced by an energy as a child, and it traumatized me. In a lot of ways, sleeping was very, very difficult as a child because I was being messed with in my sleep, and I would scream in my sleep, like bloody murder. I would, after being fully potty trained, I would wet the bed. I just started, there were different phases of it. And I remember, my parents taking me to a doctor, and they'd just be like, "Oh, her brain is growing faster than her skull." That was a reasoning. Or, okay, so she can't drink any liquids after 4 o'clock. So I couldn't drink water before bed because I was gonna that would solve it. So there's a way we lost a lot of cultural practices through traumas, through cataclysms, and this gets into history. We are all influenced by these different histories of our lineages too. So there's a really interesting, if you start exploring other, not the mainstream history, but other forms of history. And when I started to do work on myself in my mid 40s, I did start to look at, what lands where I was born, which was Ohio, which was full of mounds. And I remember looking into it before, it was probably 2004 or 5. There wasn't much information, and I didn't even know how to look for it. What were these mounds about? What was that all about? And really, I was connecting to the land of my birth, and from the place I lived. And there was a practice you could do where you make offerings, and I started tuning into the mounds, and I was like, oh, Serpent Mound was nearby. What's that about? So I just started to explore. And when you go on a quest of oh, I wonder what that's, later I did find out more about it, because there are so many people who started questioning the reality more in 2020. I'd say 2001 was a big beginning of that. A lot of people were way ahead of the game with 9/11. And I definitely thought it was weird. But there were also, I just went on with my life. But in the back of my mind, there was a lot of weird things revealed during that time. And these kind of open doorways for people. But they, I know a lot of people who, okay, they experienced it, and then they just moved on. And then when 2020 happened, it was a bigger, if you kind of shove that stuff aside, you might have had some time to pull it out again and go, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? And there are great people who have already put together that timeline and made all the connections. Because there's multi-levels of things going on here in this reality. And if you're caught up in your own traumas, you may not be able to pull yourself out enough to see what's going on. But what's happened with me over the years, questing to clear different traumas and things that have happened in my life, and I did have some moments of doing that work before midlife, definitely in my 30s. When I moved to Kauai, I started to meditate more and I got into this, like, okay, what's going on? I was having things happen in the outer reality that was um, saying, hey, maybe it's you that's causing these things to happen while you're having these issues with people. So I started to, and that's the beginning of self-reflection. So I started to like look at myself, meditate, what's going on, and then getting a lot of response from nature. I had a whole thing happening, living on a farm. Not much electricity was around in that time, and there were all these barn owls coming and sitting near me, and having this whole connection with the winged ones. It was kind of a glimpse into that, and I actually was able to clear that spirit because it would still come and haunt me. Once in a while, when I got in fear, it would haunt me, and I would have the sleep paralysis and feel like I couldn't call out or in my sleep, and it would then go away. So it was controlled by my fear, and so I knew I had to face a lot of my fears. And I also, we take on energies from our parents. I have a mother that was very paranoid when I was growing up. And I took on a lot of this paranoia. It was always just kind of like double check, never trusted. Did I lock the doors to my car when I went? Just like always questioning, like, did I leave the pan on? Just never like fully relaxed, always like a paranoid energy in the background. And that was this lineage stuff that I had taken on from my mother. And I definitely, I know from doing ancestral work that I had a lot of lifetimes and a lot of just experiences that I was bringing into this lifetime, along with the lineage traumas from, my families that I was connected to. And I think a lot of us have that because living here on the planet, there has been a lot of traumas and dramas. It's out there everywhere. And when you start to clear the path and understand yourself better, then you can actually, and this isn't everybody's journey either. So this has definitely been a destiny for me to sort through this stuff. And it wasn't until my mid-40s that I actually started to do real work on myself. And I'm 56 now, so it is. And even when I was beginning, I was like, oh my God, I have so much to do. Because you just open up and then you're like, oh my God. But I was drawn to work with ayahuasca after really being totally repulsed by the idea of it. Like, totally repulsed. Like, what? People throw up? It's like, no way, I'm not doing that. But then I reached a point in my life after also a tragic relationship, which I, definitely made happen because I make things happen, right? So I have to take ownership for these things I've created and take responsibility for my part in things. And but it led me to this deeper place of knowing myself. So that started my journey with working with ayahuasca. And it started very small ceremonies. I knew somebody, I knew a shaman in the area where I lived, and it was very, very, say, what do I want to say, clean and clear. There was very clear place to do it as far as the energies of the land where the place was. And I worked, I had a friend who had been through a similar situation. It was different, but dealing with a partner that just wasn't going to come around. And we was hooked on drugs, so, and heavy drugs, like, yeah. So the realization, that, we can't fix them, that we have to fix ourselves. So we went into these ceremonies, and I did them on my own with others, and I did them with her. And it was just so much stuff came out and was, oops, I thought my thing was going to fall, and was being brought to the surface. And there was a lot of tears and a lot of, purging with tears. It was like for babyhood, for just coming into the world, into situations where you're not honored, or taken care of, which is a lot of our journeys, because that is the healing journey that you need to go through. That if it was easy, and some people do have an easier time. And I always say when you have a difficult chart, there's more to learn here. So it's not that you're a victim. It's that there's more to learn. So this, by the time I get to this phase in my mid-40s, where I just feel like I just was going through the motions. I lived in a beautiful place. It was the dream I wanted, but I was not happy. So that is, it's very challenging to realize, like, wait a minute, I created all this stuff, and I'm still not happy in my life. And so I started to work with plant medicine very intentionally, and then things started to clear from my system. Some of these my life experiences began to clear all the emotions around it. Now, one thing in my emotions, I had a very hard time expressing my emotions as a kid. I would go into almost hysterics when I tried to express myself. So there was a real blockage in being able to, I could never speak like this, ever, just like talk and then put it out there. So that was a whole part too that was being released. And I know there's a lot of things around, working with these plants, but the ayahuasca was really like a grandmother. She just had a soft voice. She would show me things. She would whisper, you don't have to do this. You don't have to be like that. You don't have to, she was very gentle and sweet. So I know people go through all kinds of stuff working with this medicine. And I just experienced a very loving grandmother energy. So I just want to, this is kind of the first part. I'm not going to do really long videos, as I know people don't really pay attention to them all. So my intention is to start sharing my experience that has led me to where I am now, which is in a very good place. I am not pulled around by outer information. I am not pulled around by things that aren't mine. And I'm really clear about energy. And I've been able to clear myself of disturbed energies that were trying to influence me. And I've been able to connect to my oldest ancestors that are here for my greatest destiny and purpose, not the wounded ones. And I'm working with energies of the land, and so I've really been able to clear out those that were just took opportunity to influence me and without my discernment, and clear it out and be able to see and then attach and work with the ones that are here for my greatest destiny and purpose. And I think the work I'm doing now, I work with my ancestors, I work with the nature spirits. I am very clear about who I'm working with. And I think that is really important. If you're working with healers or people who are working with energy, you want to understand what energies they're working with. Do they know? Because sometimes we come in with gifts and we just start helping people or giving information, and we actually don't know who our guides are. And then in the spiritual movement, in the New Age movement, which has always been here as well, with another narrative. So there's a lot of narratives going around, and they get recycled because we're in a whirl, we're in a cycle of many things: the seasons, information, political influencing, and we're being influenced by a lot of things. So it's like really getting clear, and that's part of what I'm doing with my cosmic consciousness class, which is one-on-one. We work with your astrology, because also astrology has a lot of misinformation, and I think interpretations, because here's the conflict. You're getting all these interpretations of energies that we don't know. I'm not out there in the space. I don't know what planets are. They're energies, they're light, they're angles of light, just like sun and the moon create angles of light. How they're influencing us, part of that has been just through time interpreted. And we can actually learn to interpret our own charts, because we know best about our own. If you learn about yourself, you will know, and you will not be fooled. So I think astrologers are helpful. I'm not discounting astrology, but I do think that there is some grifting and the lack of trust, and then putting your trust into astrologers. Why do that? Because we're also creating with our minds every day our reality. And that's whether or not you're in a good reality or a negative reality. It's being repeated and created and recreated. So understanding the mind, the mental energy, understanding the metaphysics of this reality is going to help to ground your energy here. So this is a part of the process I've been going through, and there's a lot of narratives out there that people are health narratives, political narratives. There's so many things that are influencing us, And I don't know, how much of it is really true. So that's why I teach this sun and the moon. The sun and the moon are on a very specific path. They are doing certain things in the sky. They are creating angles of light that the plants are responding to, and we are responding to. So we get conscious about where things are. The moon is emotional energy. You can tell a lot about things where the sun and the moon are. And then get into the other aspects. And learn about your chart. Learn about the energies you're running. I didn't know about my chart. And when I started to learn about it, I was like, oh. And then I learned, a lot of the negative interpretations. And the negative interpretations are saying, oh, Virgo rising, you're so difficult, critical, la la la. No, I'm a high priestess. So you have this opportunity in learning about your astrology, what the higher aspects are and what the lower aspects are. And often we're just in the lower. We don't really realize we have been influenced in these ways. So there's a lot of power in understanding your chart and embodying different aspects during the different times of year we go through. So I could go on and on, but I'm going to leave it there. And just to reintroduce myself, my name is Caitlin. I am a midlife mermaid. I am an alchemist. I work with the alchemy of the chart and the sacred geometry of this reality, the metaphysics here. And I work with the tools of biogeometry, which is an amazing recreation of the old understanding of alchemy, which was that we have lots of tools around us all the time to work with the energies here, that we are living in an ether. We are living in the earth, not on the earth. And everybody knows about sound, but there's also color, shape, number, and angle. So there's a lot of other tools out there that can be used to transform energy and move it to a higher vibration or center it. So the work I do involves, can be remote because we are also fractals. So every part, a hair, represents my entire body. If I want to test, with the pendulum, I have these special pendulums I work with that measure different aspects: physical, vital, emotional, mental, spiritual. And I have this tool that was created by Ibrahim Karim. It's called the Human Archetype Ruler. It's a sacred grid, and I put you in there, and I can measure with anatomy charts where you have disturbances: circulation, lymph system, heart. And then I connect it to the charts. The chart actually connects to the body. The head is Aries, the feet is Pisces. So there's a whole thing going on, the reflection of the inner and the outer. Our chakras connect to the angles of light, the planets. So we are tools, and we can change our energy through clearing. So there's lots of ways. I also clear years of your life of disturbances as well that can center your energy. So I do these different tools and techniques. And part of it is information too, because when you get clear about this reality, you will no longer be fooled by information. So thanks for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, And you can check out my website. I'm actually revamping it right now to simplify it. I know it's kind of been put together and added, and things have, so I'm like, I need to get really like clear about that. So I haven't really done that yet. It's a process. It's all a process. And but I am working towards this series where I'm going to be talking more and more about different aspects of my life and how I've worked through them and how I am yeah, just getting clearer and clearer about the nature of this reality and utilizing it for my greatest destiny and purpose. So thanks again for paying attention. I appreciate your attention. And leave any comments. I'd love to hear from you.